Welcome everybody to another 47-minute webinar. Today we're going to be talking about gratitude, thanking your way to success, thanking your way to a successful 2023. Not only is this season a time of gratitude when it comes to holidays, Thanksgiving's coming up here pretty soon, but it's a great time to remind ourselves, great time to remind ourselves to be thanking donors. And we'll be talking, actually, let's go to the overview side. What we'll be covering over the next 47 minutes. Why does thanking matter? When should we say thanks? I was kind of alluding to that now. It's a great season for that. Whose job is it to say thank you? And then should we be systematic or spontaneous? These are a lot of great questions that we're going to be covering. We're also going to have some other things we'll hit. But one thing I want to bring to your attention now is we are going to have a door prize as a part of this webinar. And let's go to the next slide here. So in the chat, I just threw a link up there. It's Instagram link. Oh, yeah, go back. To enter into the door prize, all you got to do is like the post and then share it to your story. You may be asking yourself, well, what is this door prize? It is a $500 discount certificate for the Asking Academy. You can use this, or if you want to gift that to your favorite charity, feel free to do so. It is transferable. But to enter the drawing, all you got to do is click on the link in the chat, like the post, share it to your story, and we'll be doing a drawing in about 30 minutes for that. So go ahead and do that. And for everyone who's joining the webinar afterwards, they're just going to have to miss out. But I know it's a bit cruel, but 47 minutes is a short time frame to work through. With that being said, let's talk about the foundation for gratitude. Kent, you want to share a little bit of this one?
Yeah, so I think it could go without being said, but we didn't want it to go without being said. And everything we're going to talk about today is based on a foundation of sincerity. If who's ever had somebody say thank you and it just sounded rote? It was like a script, wasn't very convincing. And, you can't dress that thing up and make it a real deal. And so everything we're going to talk about is based on the foundation of being sincere in what we're doing. Somebody made a gift. And if you can't be thankful for what they've given, then you probably need to adjust the mindset before you attempt to express gratitude, or it's not going to be sincere. It's not going to be meaningful. And so I think in a lot of ways, sincerity really is the basis of what we're talking about. And later on, we're going to have an opportunity actually for everybody just to share some of their best thanking practices and tips. If we have time, we might even have a chance to share some train wrecks. I meant to say thank you, and it came out sounding like anything but that. So a little bit later on, we're going to specifically ask in the chat box. If you have one come to mind right now, feel free to put it in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that from time to time. Anyhow, that's kind of a beginning point for us. But for right now, if you would take just a minute and type in the chat box, why does thanking matter? And we're going to give some specific and kind of some research-based foundation for that in a moment. But just in your own experience, whether it's in the fundraising realm or life in general, how do you respond to that idea? Why does thanking matter? Real quick, just jot down your thoughts and let's share what we see coming up in the box. Wow. I noticed Milford Jenkins responded just with one word: emotions. You bet. Yeah. And showing appreciation. Somebody said, like politicians. Tony, I think you're referring to something earlier
Yeah,
with
that was earlier.
that. um,
To show someone you appreciate their gift. Let's see. Tony said it can help curb attitudes of entitlement.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. Great observation.
Pam
Yeah.
creates relationships. Yes. Shows gratitude, from the organization. Yeah.
And please, as you think of your response, would encourage you to go ahead and drop it in the chat box. And think for a moment about something that you did that was thanked, and perhaps an experience where it wasn't thanked. In fact, I feel guilty right now, and Tony, I'm not going to give a last name because this is somebody you'll know, but somebody named Rodney asked me about 10 days ago, what's an address that I can send a package to? Well, I mean, he kind of tipped himself off. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. Well, yesterday, I got a call from FedEx. They said, we've attempted to deliver a package for 3 times, and now you have to go to the airport to pick it up. Well, I found out it's from Rodney, and now I'm embarrassed. Okay, but I mean, here's somebody that's going out of his way to say thank you. There are a number of reasons, a lot of them kind of serendipitous, why thanking matters. But some of the things that we want to touch on today actually come out of some very in-depth research that was done by the Philanthropy Center at Plymouth University. Plymouth University in UK, learning to say thank you, the role of donor acknowledgements. And this was done specifically for the purpose of putting a body of research behind this anecdotal information that we all have as it relates to saying thank you. And I'm going to just say that, one of our organizations is the Institute for Conversational Fundraising. And we felt we're really proud to have co-sponsored this project and this research along with Pursuant and our friends at Bloomerang. And interesting, this is the role of donor acknowledgement. This is their acknowledgement page. So not only are they doing the research, but they're emulating best practices. So but before we get to that, Aaron, I know you made some observations that I thought were very insightful as you reviewed this report. You just want to share some of your takeaways from the Learning to Say Thank You summary report?
Yeah, there's one point that they made just about the power of expressing gratitude, saying thank you. And I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't mess it up. The level 5 is an acknowledgement, which is a way of saying gratitude. That's the term they use. But showing gratitude and communicating that may appreciate donors as people, not simply for what they do for an organization. And I thought that was so powerful because it's easy, especially when you're dealing with a lot of people, to forget that donors are actual humans. They're people, regardless of their wealth, regardless how many we're managing and dealing. People want to be treated like people, and being able to say thank you does just that. And there was a quote. There was someone that was a part of this study, and when they were reflecting on being thanked, they said it's not just thanking, it's kind of loving me.
Oh,
and
wow.
That one hit me. I thought, man, that's a great perspective. This is a way that we can express love to our donors and treat them as real people. Anything jump out to you from that ebook?
Yeah, so it's interesting. as you're saying that, Aaron, it reminds me of this phrase that's common in our society, and that is, let's show some love, right? So thanking is a way that we literally can show love. I love that you shared that. So one of the things that stood out to me is, and again, I just want to read this for our group today. Good thank yous energize the fundraising team and build a stronger philanthropic culture. Being good at saying thank you can give energy to those who are raising funds, and it builds a stronger culture of philanthropy. So for me, that was one big takeaway. And there are so many. I wish we had time just to really unpack the entire thing. But one of the others that stood out to me is they create this contrast about different kinds of thanks. So thank the donor for their gift, thanking them for the difference that their gift has made, for being the kind of person that they are, and for becoming the person that they would like to be. So, so many different levels of thanking. And one of the results that the study found was subtle changes to our communications can profoundly influence how good donors feel as a result of reading that communication. So, I mean, think about it. We have the opportunity to help people feel good about doing good just by saying thank you in a way that's meaningful. And so, hey, Aaron, can we make this this ebook? Can we make it available to everybody so that they can review it on their own?
Yep. In fact, what I decided to do, there's a link. I just put a link up in the chat. Most of you are connected to Stroman and Associates on LinkedIn, but I'm going to write an article a little bit later this afternoon, and I'm going to attach the ebook is in a PDF form, so it'll show up there for you guys to download. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn, feel free to click that link in the chat box and just be on the lookout for it this afternoon, and you'll be able to download it from LinkedIn in just a couple hours.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Aaron. And it really is a powerful resource. It's part of the philanthropy psychology of philanthropy, and great information by Jen. Jen and Adrian, and I've had the privilege of not only meeting them, having dinner, and working together on this. And so in a lot of ways, that kind of leads us to this question: when should we say thanks? And I think for most of us, we have a common response. We should say thank you within 24 hours, right? And for a lot of giving now, it's in electronic fashion, digital, and there's an immediate acknowledgement. But I want to draw a distinction between a gift receipt and a true gift acknowledgement, or truly saying thank you. And so, again, I know we could spend a lot of time unpacking this, but in a nutshell, here's what I want to say: is that a real thank you is sincere, it's personal, and it's an expression of gratitude. Okay. And so for me, anything that's required by the government, okay, so IRS required receipt, doesn't meet the test of sincere, personal, and an expression. It's different than acknowledging that we received a financial transaction. So anyhow, when should we say thanks? We're going to circle back in just a minute, but I'm just curious, by show of hands, I'm looking at the screen right now. Who's heard this phrase that we should say thank you 7 times for each gift before we ask for another gift? Anybody else? Yeah, I mean, we're familiar with that. And like I said, we're going to share some specifics on that in a moment. But when should we say thanks? How about early and often, and in ways that are really sincere and meaningful? Aaron, whose job is it to say thank you?
Yes, this is a great question that we need to get clarity on. Is it a certain role? Is it a certain person? Is it the one who received the gift, who's logging it into the books. And we like to answer this question with a mirror. If you look in the mirror, that's whose job it is to say thank you. Go ahead and take ownership. Go ahead and take the initiative. Leaders, part of the leaders, the job is to initiate. And if you see something that you can express gratitude for, if you can give thanks for it, go ahead and take that on yourself. You don't want to wait for someone else to do that. You might be able to justify it does belong to someone else, but if it hasn't happened, go and do it. And think of it this way: if a donor gets thanked by more than one person for a gift or for an act of generosity, that's okay. There's no limit or threshold on how many times someone's allowed to be thanked. In fact, it might even be better if it's more than one person. But
yeah, so unless it's the same script. Sure. I am calling to say thank you for your gift of 27 cents.
Right. Again, coming back to the sincerity piece, that's going to be an umbrella for all of this. But the more we say thank you, the better. And a lot of times, again, this is where not only you might be a leader, but even can grow in your leadership. If you start thanking people, you're going to develop that relationship with them. And if they haven't been thanked by anyone else, the relationship's probably lacking. This will be a way for you to grow in your leadership, even if no one's expecting it from you, even if no one's assigned it to you. And that's how leaders rise to the top. And simple gratitude is a huge way that we can not only express thanks, but grow in our leadership. So don't wait for anyone else to do that. If you see it, go ahead and pull the trigger on saying thank you. Now, Ken, I think you were going to speak a little bit to a role dynamic of whose job it is to say thank you.
Yeah, and before I do that, I just want to voice what Julie Hall put in the chat box. She says, saying thank you is a long-lost art that has gone by the wayside. We always wrote personal thank you notes to people back in the day, a lost art that should come back. And Julie, thank you for saying that. I agree. And so I love what the approach that Aaron took, and that is if whoever's face you see in a mirror, that's whose job it is. Structurally, who should say thank you? We can assign roles to the chief development officer. So organizationally, the CDO has the responsibility to see to it that gifts are thanked. In a way, there's a place for the CEO, who by definition is the chief fundraiser. Usually we don't have the CEO saying thank you for every gift all the time, but we want to make sure that the message is matched with the voice and the gift. And so some thanks will be spontaneous. I will tell you one of the most important roles that board members can play in the fundraising process is to appropriately be involved in saying thank you. I will tell you that I attended a fundraising gala on Giving Tuesday last year. I made what was really not a large gift. However, 2 days later, I got a phone call from a caller ID that I didn't recognize. It went to voicemail. That was a mistake on my part. It was an innocent mistake. But when I retrieved that voicemail, I immediately returned the call. And this was somebody in another state that I had never met, who was a member of the board of this organization, who was calling me to say thank you for the gift and giving me just a little bit of an idea of what that gift meant to the organization. So it's not just an either or game, right? Thanking is an all of the above. But again, making sure that it's appropriate in the process. So one of the things that we kind of put on the overall summary is should we be systematic or spontaneous? So I'm just curious, maybe in the chat room, what would be your response to the question when it comes to thanking our way to a successful 2023? Should we be systematic should we be spontaneous? Anybody have any thoughts? Aaron says all caps, spontaneous. That sounds like an emphasis there. Guy says both. Lisa, both. So my answer is yes. We should be systematic. We should be spontaneous. Now, for those of you who know Aaron and me well, you'll know that my nature is systematic. Tony, I see that smirk on your face. And if you know Aaron, you know that he is hardwired
Spontaneous
for spontaneity. And that's something that I envy. And if you can imagine this, I am better than I used to be. You call it this improvement. Yeah, but there's room for both. And look for ways to do both. Later this week, I'm going to be attending a National Philanthropy Day celebration. And I will have an opportunity to be spontaneous in thanking someone for something. And that won't be in lieu of some systematic thanks. But yes, let's do both. And so have a structure whereby we can be systematic, but let's also leave room to be spontaneous. So
in a moment, we'll be asking everyone in the chat to share your best practices, but in line with this one specifically, I have to be disciplined to be systematic. And so so I build those systems into my routine, but the way I'll integrate both of those is I may have a letter going out or email going out that's a little systematic, but I'll give someone a phone call and just say, hey, John, you're going to get a piece of mail from me a couple days, but I just want to call and give you a personal thank you, because although the piece of mail is coming, I know it's coming, I want you to hear it from me first. I really do mean thank you. What you did was so generous. Appreciate how you're investing in the mission. Thank you. Blending the two, and I think that might even give the systematic thing a little more emphasis, because I acknowledge it. Yeah, there's a form letter going out or whatever it is, but hey, hear it from me. And a good spontaneous call. Why is Aaron calling me? Just to say thank you. No strings attached. Man, that goes a long ways.
Boy, isn't that the truth? I'll tell you, when I first started in officially and formally in the development world, I stepped into what had been in a vacuum in terms of any kind of structured fundraising for the organization for many years. And I didn't know what to do. So I just, this was back in the day when you actually picked up a phone and had a wire hooked to a wall. But I would just pick up the phone and call people who had made gifts just to say thank you. I had got so much dead air because from this organization, they were well accustomed to receiving calls asking for gifts, but not well accustomed to getting a call just to say thank you. And it opened up some beautiful conversations. It formed some long-lasting relationships, Aaron, like what you were talking about earlier. And so the spontaneity, and again, that was the structured spontaneity. But on the screen, we've got 7 insights to meaningful appreciation. And I'm just going to share these real quickly. If you're taking notes, you may want to jot them down. But number 1, here's an insight, and that is every gift is important. And whether it's a gift of $7 or a gift of 7 figures, the gift is important to the donor, and the donor is important to the organization. So every gift matters. Insight number 2, be personal. We talked about this earlier. Make it personal. It's not about you, but when you personally engage in the appreciation process, it makes it more personal to the giver. Number 3, the thank should fit the gift. When we say too big of a thank you for a gift that's just incidental on the part of the giver, that can be a form of insincerity. And so again, don't give a $1 million thanks to a $10 gift. But on the other hand, we may have a $10 giver that's giving sacrificially. and they're doing it repeatedly. When that person has, let's say they've made their sacrificial monthly gift. Let's say thank you when they've done it 12 times. So let the thanks fit the gift, and then be consistent. That's the back to the structural part. But let's have a way that we are assured that every gift is being thanked. Number 5, the rule of thumb, saying thanks in 7 times. Again, we could spend an entire webinar on this, but we want to say a thanks immediately upon receiving the gift. I want to say some form of thanks at a strategic time. Thanksgiving. At Thanksgiving, are we giving thanks, or are we just focused on what happens 3 days later on Giving Tuesday, when we're not giving thanks, but we're saying, give me more, right? Say thank you and just thank you. Can we have a thankathon that's at some other time of the year that's not triggered by anything in particular? I like to have a calendar year-end thanks. So sometime in the first 2 weeks of January, where we're saying thank you for each of the gifts that were made in the previous year. If we have a fiscal year that's different than the calendar year, I like to do a fiscal year thank you. I'm in a July 1 fiscal year mode. So a new year starts on July 1, sometime early in the month of July. I want to say we just completed a very successful year of mission for the organization. The only way that could have happened was through the generosity of how many givers gave, and that collectively they contributed this many dollars. And your part in that process not only allowed us to succeed last year, but you've put us in a position of success for the year that's ahead. So anyhow, the rule of thumbs. Do we have ways that we are saying thank you besides thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you? No, that doesn't count. Number 6 on the 7 insights is make the mission connection. Here's what your gift is doing, not just depleting your account and enriching our account, but whose life is different and how is it different as it relates to the mission of the organization. And then the last thing I have on this insight is realizing that thanking is development. So he says, well, I can't do that. My job is raising funds and fundraising. Yes. If we can't say thank you correctly, we can't effectively raise gifts. So with that, I'd love to hear from people in the room. What are some best thanking practices and tips? Conrad has already given us a story from OSU. I think that's the Ohio Student, no, Oklahoma State University is what I'm guessing. But please, what are some of your best thanking practices and tips? And I love what Conrad shared in terms of cookies and punch to say thank you for people who can easily go unthanked. And whenever staff comes around to clean out your office, a great time to say thank you when I'm there. Somebody else, what's your tip? Aaron, you shared a tip. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, these are these times, if you go to the next slide, it'll kind of cue it, but when we can learn from each other. I know there's a lot of ideas in the Zoom room. Whoever's willing to share those, thank you. But Melanie talked earlier about, hey, how do we, any ideas on how to get phone numbers? We haven't included text message into our marketing plan. I'm assuming that's because we don't have enough numbers to justify the cost. But I think that's a great question to look into. I know a lot of people are starting to utilize more text message communication because people aren't reading their emails. So how do we communicate? How do we say thank you? But
so a lot of times people have this problem with justification. And I like to turn that on its head and ask somebody, in this case, maybe the executive director, please give me the name of the person that we think it's not worth thanking them for. because that makes it personal. Okay, who do we not want to say thank you to? I had a group I was working with one time. They were afraid they were going to get a bunch of gifts from little kids, and that was going to cost them too much money in stamps. And I challenged them to think about the impact on the future giving and the future of that person. What if they discover as a kid, which I did, what if they discover that giving makes a difference and it's appreciated, and all we're doing is reinforcing a very small behavior and a small pattern early in life, and it gets multiplied several times over. Let's see, Melanie said our donors always receive a letter, email from our executive director, but then another follow-up from a board member. Great practice. Thanks for sharing that. Tony, we put a blank thank you note in the guest rooms and a list of 3 major donors whom they can write to. We end up with about 15 thank you notes a month, handwritten by our guests, and then the staff mails those out to the donors. Wow, what a beautiful practice. Tony, thanks for sharing that with us.
Beverly's is right up my alley. She'll send a handwritten note, which we're starting to see a theme here, and then she calls within a month and invites them to lunch. And man, sitting down with the lunch, talk about a way to build relationships. There's something about sharing a meal with someone that's special and can't be replaced by anything else. I love that, Beverly.
Yeah, and Suzanne, a stewardship week. Wow. If you didn't read anything else, those 2 words, stewardship week, can you make that work? And who's going to be impacted by that? The giver, yes. The person who calls and thanks them or goes by, you bet. You know, one of the things that that I had a donor do, a client do one time, it was a little bit later in the year than this, but I had him go to the store and buy 3 dozen poinsettias and just go and take them to somebody's office, their home, without any appointment. I just wanted to stop by and say thank you for your generosity. That's brightened my life. I hope these red leaves will brighten yours. Milford, thank you notes from actual youth scholarship winners. No, you don't really do that.
That's huge.
Yeah, you bet. Powerful stuff. So please feel free to continue to do that. In the meantime, if you have some general Q&A as it relates to how can we really thank our way to success in 2023, Aaron and I want to share some response. Melanie says, can you talk more about the 6th insight related to making the connection to the mission, ideas or samples? Yeah, great question. So first of all, I just want to leverage what Tony said. So at Hospitality House, people who are in medical crisis and traveling for that have a home away from home. And so those guests, those residents, they're saying thank you to a giver who made it possible. I mean, that's a beautiful connection to the mission. How many of you have maybe I had one client, they had some kind of a competition where the children in the school created thank you notes. They actually created the thank you note cards, and then they got to have like the artist's signature on the back. And so this gift card was custom created by Janie in the 3rd grade class. And so maybe I'm just adding a note to say thank you for your recent gift. So there's a connection to the mission. If you run an animal shelter, let Fido put his paw print on the thing. Again, that's making a connection to the mission. So I have also have a client works with adults with intellectual disabilities. They have ways that their participants create product. Can we use that as a thank you token? So anyhow, those are just a variety of different ways to connect to the mission. Let's see. Tony Moore says, I would love to see a list of examples that are categorized as $1 million gifts, major gifts, monthly gifts, etc. And actually, I'm going to encourage not only Tony, but anybody else, I have a list of what I call 7 times 7, 49 ways to say thank you. And if you'll send me an email, I'll be glad to share that with you. My email is Kent, K-E-N-T, at stromanconsulting.com. And I just realized what time it is. Aaron, we got to, is it time to do a drawing? Or almost?
Oh, let's almost. We're going to do top takeaways, and I'm actually, let me kick this one off because a comment that we kind of skipped over there, Rob Leroy, he's going straight for the heart, and I think we need to give a highlight here. He goes, one of our thank yous is in the form of treats for their pets. Man,
wow.
People love their pets. So you send them the doggy biscuit or something, can of tuna for the cat, they're going to remember that forever. So what a great, he says we're an animal shelter. Oh man. Yeah. So straight for the heart. But again, like you were saying, Kent, connecting the thank you to the mission.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to express gratitude. But who else? What is a top takeaway? Why don't we share if there's one thing that you're walking away with going, okay, I need to integrate this into my organization or my personal practice. What is that one top takeaway? Feel free to drop that in the chat box. Hopefully there's something.
Let's use that for our lightning round. Everybody, this is your ticket to get out of the room. We got some important stuff first, but love to hear a top takeaway.
Stewardship
week. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So yeah, let's keep that chat box open for a minute. However, in the meantime, Aaron, what's this Asking Academy thing?
AskingAcademy.com. You've probably heard us talk about it. We now have a dedicated website for it, the AskingAcademy.com. Asking Academy is one of our probably most intense ways that we give major gift solicitation training to our clients, how to solicit big gifts. It's intense. There's a summit that's 2 days on site. Overall, it's a 5-month program. The 5 months of that is virtual, but 2 days on site. And that, if you were here at the beginning, we talked about a door prize, $500 off for your team, or you can give that to a team for the Asking Academy. And we're going to do the drawing now. So in fact, I'm going to go over here to my, let's see, switch screens here and do this live so people don't think that I'm making this up. Okay, so I've got the names in there, and let's go to start, pick a random name.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Your Instagram name. So I might, if this is you, drop that in the chat.
Who won it?
McCoy on Instagram. So McCoy, identify yourself in our chat so we know who this is.
So, and Aaron, what's the prize?
The prize is $500 off of the Asking Academy for your team, or if you're here on behalf of an organization, you can give this to your executive director, who you're working with. But $500 off the Asking Academy for your team.
You know what?
Discount certificate.
Aaron, I think it's a great idea. Do we do one more? Let's do it twice.
You gonna do one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is good for
I can
any Asking Academy in the first half of 2023.
Yeah, it's good through June 30th, 2023. So awesome. We have a couple in between now and then. All right, we'll pick another name.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it can. Hopefully. Julie S. Hall 54.
Where's Julie? Is Julie still in the room?
She's been commenting, so unless she signed up. Oh, she's here.
Julie Hall.
Oh, the Julie that's holding her head very, very still. Congratulations, Julie.
Thank you.
Wow. That's cool.
So what did I win?
discount certificate, $500 off the Asking Academy. So
Oh.
I'll email you a PDF and get you some more info on that.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
did our first winner? We never. I think I might have an idea who that is, but
Well,
we'll hunt him down too. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing there, and I think we have a couple more slides to go through. But the next one is the dates. So we not only do we have the Asking Academy that's in person, we also have a virtual option, which if you're here, obviously you appreciate the virtual world being on Zoom. Asking Academy Express. So our next classic, which is the full program, it summits at the end of January. But we should probably start talking now before we get into the holidays if you want to bring a team to that one. We have a couple people signed up already. And then the Asking Academy Express is hosted on Zoom, and that will take place at the latter part of February. So that's 2 mornings. I think it's a Tuesday and Wednesday morning, around 8 to 11:30 a.m. both days. So again, great way to develop your fundraising skills, to learn some new concepts and gain a lot of confidence, specifically with major and mega donors.
Hey, let me just mention this. Earlier this month, we had a summit for the fall 2022 Asking Academy. And wow, my 2 words, best ever. I mean, we've been doing the Asking Academy since 2013. And I wish everybody had been in the room. I can't wait to see how these conversational fundraisers are going to leverage their fundraising in what lies ahead. But if you have room in your budget for additional revenue, we should be talking. If you don't have room in your budget for more revenue, there's no point in the conversation. But
yeah.
So yeah, and then in addition to that,
our next webinar is going to be next year. Kent and I have a strategic planning session for this coming up at the end of the month. But right now, we don't know what the topic's going to be. We do know it'll be on January 10th, another Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central. But free to drop in the chat box if there's a certain topic, a hurdle that you're facing, you need help getting over. What would you like us to approach for our next webinar in January? So feel free to drop those. We'll take some suggestions. Won't guarantee it right now, but if we can address it with confidence and competence, we certainly will. So feel free to drop in the chat box what you would like to unpack over the next webinar, and we'll gladly do that for you.
Right, and we do have a number of topics that we've already that are under consideration. But one of the things that's really important to us is we want to make sure that we're touching on the topics that you're interested in. So again, your feedback will help us both with which content and which to schedule first. So please, whether it's in the chat box now, or if you want to send a direct message on LinkedIn or email, would love to have your feedback. In just a minute and a half, it'll be 47 minutes. We're going to wrap up. But any remaining comments or questions, Aaron, from you or from anybody else in the room as we wrap up?
You know, gratitude is such a powerful force. I was working with soon to be executive director. There's a nonprofit in the making here in Kansas City, one that I'm pretty passionate about. The direction they're headed in. I was helping them get connected with a network group and a lawyer here so they can become an official 501c3. And the connection I made helped them take some huge strides forward. And the executive director sent me a simple text message, said, "Hey, that meeting was so productive. Thank you for the connection." And that simple thank you on a text message through my cell phone, it meant a lot. He didn't have to say thank you. I would have found out later, but he texted me. And I also found myself wanting to do more helpful activities for them because I got a thank you. And so you never know what a thank you might lead to, but that's a way to encourage behavior. One thing we didn't talk about was how thank yous tend to encourage more and bigger giving. I don't think that should be our motive for saying thank you, but it is a nice byproduct.
You're exactly right. And it's been 47 minutes, so we want to wrap up, but just by saying a thank you for your kind attention, for your interaction. And we want to wish everybody the greatest success in all of your thanking. So we're going to model that now by saying thank you for enriching our day. And we want to wish you the happy Thanksgiving and all the best success in the remainder of this year and in the year that lies ahead. See you guys next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.